Southwestern Family of Companies welcomes you to the Action Catalyst. Each week, our diversely and amazingly accomplished guests share their insights and inspirations to help us ignite our own. So let's invest attention together to breathe, to reflect and refocus, and decisively defeat that voice we call Mr. Mediocrity. Then let's enjoy moving forward to make a positive difference in our world.
This episode is sponsored by Global Educational Concepts. Global Educational Concepts is a designated sponsor of the U.S. Department of State's Cultural Exchange programs. They fully support and believe in the public diplomacy opportunities their exchange programs offer participants, host families, and host employers. Global Educational Concepts seeks to provide the best service and support possible to the young people who participate in their programs while adhering to government regulations. Their program participants can be found living, working, and training all across the U.S. Visit gecexchanges.com for more information on Global Educational Concepts.
Welcome to the Action Catalyst podcast. And today we have Dave Kaiser with us as our guest. Dave Kaiser, otherwise known as DC, is the president of GEC. He is also the leader of the Highlanders organization, and he is a member of the board of directors here at Southwestern Family of Companies. I consider DC a mentor, a friend, and an amazing business partner, and we are in for a big treat today. So welcome to the show, Dave. We're so glad to have you here. Well, let's hop into this. DC, you've been with Southwestern Advantage and Southwestern Family of Companies. Take us back to the beginning and tell us how long you've been there. And I would love to hear the story of how you actually found Southwestern and to take us to the very beginning. So how long have you been with Southwestern now, DC?
Well, this is my 50th year to be part of the company. And I've enjoyed every single day and every single week. It's just been fantastic.
I know the listeners are thinking, did he start when he was 5 years old? And so,
actually, when I was four.
Well, yeah, exactly. 50 years. Isn't that incredible for all the listeners to just imagine being at one company for 50 years? And DC, you have impacted many, many lives. So tell us about the beginning of this 50-year journey.
You know, my father had worked at the same company his entire life. And all of his friends that he worked with, the people he worked with there became his friends, and the family members became friends, and the children became friends. And when I was graduating from university in the 70s, it was a time where people seemed to just jump from one job to the next, and who could do this job and who could do that job. And it didn't really seem to serve them that well that they would get started here and there was something they didn't like about it. So then they would just leave and go someplace else. And pretty soon they didn't like something there, and then they'd go someplace else. Or sometimes a friend would say, hey, come and work with us. This is a fantastic opportunity, a great company. And they'd interview, their friend would, and they'd finally get the job, and they'd finally get there. And when they arrived, the guy that told them to come was leaving. It's like, whoa, you told me this was a great opportunity. So I was very blessed to have a sales manager, Jim Calder, who taught us that there's going to be good times and bad times and hard times, but you just have to keep your head up, and you just have to keep moving forward. And so early on, I decided if it was possible to just stay at the same location, that's where I would like to be. And I wasn't going to just move because there would be a bad year or a down year or a hard time. That's going to happen wherever you would go. But my story is actually a God wink. It wouldn't happen without God being involved in the plan. Neither of my parents went to university. We grew up in a very poor rural part of Pennsylvania. And the one thing they knew for sure, though, is that their oldest son was going to go to university. That was made very clear to me. And they worked hard and saved up money and helped make sure that I could go. And I was adamant that I was going to go to a different university where all my friends were going to, like Penn State. And they said no. They wanted me to go to this small college that was near our town, a Christian college, And I definitely did not want to go there. And it was the biggest knockdown drag out I ever had with my parents. And so we finally compromised. I could go for 1 year, and if I didn't like it, I could leave. And thank God that happened to me, Dustin, because if I hadn't gone to that small Christian liberal arts school, I never would have learned about Southwestern. I never would have met Steve Babbitt. And an interesting part of the story is when I was younger, I was in our small church in Pennsylvania. And there was a gentleman that spoke one day about how the world needed Christian businessmen. And I thought, you know what? I think God would like me to do that. That would be something I would like to do. But the chances of anyone from my small community in Pennsylvania ever becoming a business person were like -10. It just wouldn't have happened, just was not going to happen. So I went to Houghton College, and I met a young gentleman there named Stephen Babbitt, who was my student manager and my mentor for the next 4 or 5 years. And he took me out on the book field, and I don't think that anyone expected that I would sell very many books or that I would be a top recruiter or team builder, but I knew deep down inside this was my opportunity and this was my chance. And so that's how I got started. And I built some teams as I was going through university, and I was bound and determined that I was going to stay.
Yeah, you did. Well, not only did you stay, but you thrived. And you were one of 2 people in our 160 plus year history that has ever built 1,000+ person organization. So you and Spencer Hayes are the only 2 people who have successfully built organizations of over 1,000 people. So tell us, how did you do that? And for all the listeners going, wow, I thought managing my team of 30 people was a lot, to wrap their minds around having 1,000 people in your organization. How'd you do that? And tell us about what that was like.
Great organizations and companies are built not necessarily by people, but on principles. And along the way, there are a lot of different challenges. Perhaps one story of interest would be how we started our program internationally. And
yes, we would love to hear that. For the listeners, we have over 10,000 people internationally that have now come over to the United States and learned how to build their businesses during the summer. And they take that skill and those values back to their countries. And DC has led us in that effort. So tell us about that, DC.
Well, it's another God story. I remember exactly where I was when this happened. It was in May of sales school, and I'm so busy getting everybody out on the field. And I have this one young man named Eric Hoffer, and Eric is going to school in the UK, and he calls me and asks, can he bring 3 of his British friends over to sell for the summer? And I immediately tell him, no, this is not a good idea. And I'm really busy. Sales school's going on. I'll see you when you get here. So he calls back the next day and asks, can he bring them again? And I said, Eric, I mean, how do you know these guys? And he goes, I play rugby with them. I go, Eric, no. This is the time this was, I guess, in the 80s when we have to pay for university ourselves. And most of the kids I work with are at private schools. They're very expensive. And they need to earn money for the summer. And I'm not going to have 3 British guys that play rugby over here destroying the organization for the summer. So as I mentioned, it's a God story because Eric was persistent enough to call a 3rd day. And this is the phone call I remember because I was standing at my desk. I was so busy. And I just said, okay, Eric, just bring them. And Eric brought those 3 guys. And they had a wonderful summer. The next day the next year, they sent 31 of their friends. And then the next year there were 87. And now, as you mentioned, there's been over 10,000 of them that have come from 57 different countries all around the world. And without Eric making that phone call, and there were other people along the way, other ways that I ran into and recruited a few people to help build that organization. But in redefining possible and finding a way, in this story, was really finding the right people. There were so many people that were so negative about anybody coming to sell from these other countries. It was so expensive to get them here for flights. their visas. They didn't speak the language. Sometimes they didn't understand our language. It was real expensive to go and recruit them, and even to call them on the phone back then. It was like real expensive just to make phone calls. And so there were many directors in the company and people that thought like, this is a waste of money and a waste of time, and we don't want to do this. But in my heart, when I would see these kids come, I knew they were the most talented people in their country. And at Southwestern, as you know, we're a builder of people. And I knew they had to be talented to get on an airplane and get a visa and go to a different country and a different continent and a different culture, and to knock on doors and sell yourself door to door. I mean, redefining possible. I mean, that's a challenging thing for these young people to do. So I knew there was great potential there. And so Jerry Heffel sent me to a World Direct Sales conference, and I met some people there. And I watched a presentation by a gentleman from the CEO of Tupperware. And he said, after the United States, which country do you think we do the most business in of all over the world? Take a couple guesses.
I would say the UK or France.
You know what? I guess China. I guess India. I guess the UK. I guess Canada. That'd be a good candidate. I guess Brazil. And it was Germany.
Ah.
And after everybody left, probably 300 people in the room, I went up and approached the gentleman. I said, "Could you help explain that to me? I don't quite understand. Why was that? What was that about? Why Germany?" And he said, "Dave, it really wasn't the country. It was finding the right two people."
Mm.
And so we found the right two people in Germany, and they built the company. Mm-hmm. So we found Chris Adams and Robin Mukherjee, Lars Tavis, Duncan Battleshell, Colin McClung, a few of the really right people, and they helped build that organization. So eventually there were 500 students in the U.S. and 500 in other countries around the world, and that's how it all ended up being 1,000 people in the organization. So I've always felt like part of that redefining possible or finding possible is finding the right people.
Wow. Well, that is just incredible, DC. And you are such a example to us all on how you build people, and those people build great companies. And you're one of the best people builder that I've ever met. And you've also now pivoted, and you're also really insightful about when there's a cluster opportunity where you have one business that has another need and filling the need of the business through creating a different business. So as most of our listeners know, Southwestern Family of Companies has GEC. So tell us about how that was a cluster business model concept where it was fulfilling an ecosystem that our Southwestern Advantage, the education business, needed to have a need filled. And tell us about that journey and what GEC is all about.
It was, again, redefining possible. We found ourselves in an impossible situation, and that we had now 300 or 400 students that would be coming from Europe to sell with us, but they never would come on time. They would always show up late. They couldn't get visas. This is a very not known story, but one year we had 257 kids in sales school, and we had 11 organizational leaders that would take these people to the field, and they did not have visas in their passports. So when sales school ended, all those 257 people minus 11 organizational leaders, they all went to the field to sell books, and those 11 organizational leaders sat in the Mort Utley conference room, being not allowed to go with them to the field. I mean, redefining possible. That was a very, very scary time. We solved that problem. We had one of them gather up their passports, flew to London overnight, went into the embassy the next day, got the proper thing stamped in their passports, and flew back the next day, taking a big chance, not even knowing if we could ever get their passports back. But at that time, it became apparent that we needed to solve this problem, and we needed a visa agency of our own. So in the summer of 2004, we went to Washington, D.C. and met with the State Department, explained our needs, explained our problem, and Global Educational Concepts, a designated sponsor of the J visa program for the United States government, culture exchange programs, was started. So the first 3 years that GEC was in existence, we only brought Southwestern students because that's what we were there for. And if we made any mistakes with these visas, as had been made in our case over and over and over again by other sponsors, we didn't want it to affect anyone else's business. And after 3 years of doing that successfully, we started bringing students for other businesses, for the Gaylord Opryland operations and other Marriott properties and other companies in the United States. And so now we have a designation of work and travel students. That will be around 2,500 students that can come. We have interns and trainees that come. We have a new summer camp counselor program where we're going to bring people to work in summer camps. We have a high school program. Almost all of us know some high school exchange student that was in our high school. And so GEC now is a sponsor of those high school students. And soon we'll have a teacher designation to be able to bring teachers, which are very needed in the country right now. So it has expanded, and it's a great mission. It's a mission that combines Southwestern's vision of building character in young people around the world and helps get our values to other countries around the world. Partnership with the State Department that wants to give young people from around the world an opportunity to visit the United States and learn about our people and learn about our culture. So it's a huge public diplomacy program. A little known fact is 1 out of every 3 world leaders, heads of states of different countries in the world, have been to the United States on an exchange program. So it's a tremendous important way of helping get American values spread throughout the world. And so that's another part of the mission of the Southwestern Cooperative Families, to be able to move our principles forward throughout the world. So it's a very, very exciting time.
Oh, that's great. Well, and DC, I love that you remind us often about your favorite line that's in the Southwestern Declaration, which says, "We do not build walls, but we build bridges."
Right.
And you are such a bridge builder, and GEC's mission really does fulfill a huge need in society and the world right now, where there's so much division, there's so much people pointing fingers and blaming others, and you bring the world together in such a meaningful way. And it's so fun meeting people from every different country where, if you watch the news, they would tell you that there's all these crazy things that are different with them. But then when you meet them, you get to know them and you realize they're people and they're just like you and me, and they have goals, they have dreams, and that if we all come together and work together, we truly can make the world a better place. And you truly are focused on that.
We've had ambassadors from other countries around the world come to Nashville to visit us and thank us for the work that we're doing with the young people that have been here and are now going back to their home countries. A number of years ago, we had the ambassador from Estonia, and she talked about how there are people in Estonia that feel like the Southwestern influence is changing the entire culture of their country. And we have over 100 former Southwestern trained book people that have started businesses in Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, and other countries around the world. Last year, we had the ambassador from Bulgaria. But if you come to visit us at GEC, come and visit our walls, and you'll see letters from different ambassadors around the world that are thanking us for the program. We just assume that all the other countries in the world know about entrepreneurship, free enterprise, sales, and they don't. It's shocking. They have no idea about how a person could develop and run their own business. So it's a very, very exciting time in our company.
Yeah, you have a couple of people from Bulgaria. You have a lot of people from Bulgaria that you personally manage your organization now as the Highlander organization, and you have students and young people from Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Kazakhstan, and a variety of other countries in between. And I love the story of the top producer that you work with, who I think he made over $200,000 in last summer. And tell us about that. How much money did Emil make, and what is the average income in Bulgaria, and what kind of impact will that make for his family and the whole country?
Well, also some of these young people have taken their money home and done some amazing things with it. Right now, this year, the ambassador from Ambassador Stoichin asked, could the students help put together some money to help buy a tractor for a farm?
Wow.
Farm in Bulgaria, because they need that, and so the students are working to do that. But his name is Emil, and the last 2 years he's been the number one salesperson in our company. He has made a very exciting amount of money, counting his dealer discount and all those things. It approaches $200,000 for the summer. But he in this summer of finding a way, this will be an interesting thing, Dustin. Because of the flights were canceled and visas were held up, not very many of the Europeans got to come this year. In fact, we only have 19 that are here in the United States, unfortunately. Well, in the Highlanders, we have 9 that are here and 10 that are in the UK. I was looking back at things, and I noticed that year we had 1,000 students participating. We had 3 that sold over 10,000 units that summer, which is a really high goal that people try to get to. And it appears this year, of the 19 students we have, there are at least 6 of them that have a chance to have a 10,000 unit summer.
Wow.
So even though there's less than 20, there are 3 that will do it for sure, 2 more that are saying they want to do it. So we'll see. One's already there, Emil, who we're talking about. So this will be the 3rd year in a row he's been the number one salesperson in our company. And there was a young man that sold books a number of years ago named Dustin Hellis that just worked his tail off and set a new record for our company of the most units ever sold in the summer. It's never been done since. No one thought it was possible, but Emil is trying to redefine possible this summer. He's trying to get that record.
Yeah. Well, what comes to your mind about some of the biggest pivot moments where you've had to overcome the odds and redefine what's possible for you?
I mean, there have been so many challenges along the way. Just the opportunity to bring people from a different country to the United States and to participate in our program is something that had to be done in a different way. Not too many people know this, Dustin. You may recall, we also had a winter sales program where people came from South Africa, from Brazil and Peru, and I think that we'll get that going again. We had to put that on pause for a bit. But along the way, we thought, okay, could we actually sell books in the United Kingdom? And so at a pivot, a switch, we decided to recruit kids to actually sell there and see if that was possible. Everyone, of course, said it was not. You cannot sell anything door to door. And to be honest with you, at the very first Sunday meeting held at the Hyatt Hotel in Birmingham, England, at the end of their first week, we had 57 salespeople in the room. A normal summer, they would sell at least 570 customers, about 10 apiece, getting started. Those 57 kids had sold 17 customers for the week.
Wow.
So it was time to redefine some possible things, like right now, today, or this whole thing's going to be gone. So we had to change our approach a bit. We had to change our strategy. We had to change our vocabulary. Jack Ferris, who was former head of the NFI, National Federation of Independent Businessmen, was a great mentor of mine. And Jack used to always say to me, compared to what? I would lay out the plan and define how it's supposed to work. And he would look at the whole thing and say, compared to what? And I said, what else? What do you mean? He'd say, well, what else is out there? I go, well, I don't know what else. What are you talking about? And he helped change my thinking of, well, what else is possible? What are the things that you haven't even thought that are possible? So that was a pivotal, ideal day of, well, all right, what's possible here? What needs to be done differently? How are we going to get this thing on track? And then eventually we had a 10,000 unit salesperson in the UK. And we now have gone back there, as you know, this year. And we're looking at a young lady who's trying to break that record. And we'll have a 10,000 unit salesperson there again. So I think the book is a tremendous work. And I think it is something that people can use every month, every week along their journey. I think if they don't, then there's a tendency they may just get stuck in a rut. And there are no other what ifs out there, and they're not looking outside of the box, so to speak. And so that would be my story on that.
Oh, I love it. Well, DC, as you're a member of the board of directors with Southwestern Family of Companies, and closing us out here, what would you say you're the most excited about of everything that's going on with your world, with Southwestern Family of Companies? What you've been here for 50 years, so I would be very interested to hear what is it that you're the most excited about right now?
I really want to work on helping build the people. We so much get distracted with building the business of the numbers and the strategy and the tactics and the plan and the budget, and sometimes just forget that if we can only just build the people and then let them build the business, we're going to be much better off. And then sometimes, Dustin, we get so busy building the business that we're not paying attention to the people. And they're crying out for I need help. I just need someone to point me in the right direction. I just need someone to put their shoulder to the plow to help me move forward. And we don't even see it because we're so busy trying to build the business. So my role of the board of directors and here in our company, and it doesn't matter which company they're in, what can we do to help build them up, help them get the right skills, the right encouragement, the right decisions at the right time, and then let them go ahead and build the businesses.
I love it. This has been just a delight having you here on the Action Catalyst podcast, and appreciate the time. And I'm energized and love everything that we talked about. So really appreciate your time and being here.
The feeling is very much mutual.
Thanks, DC.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. To stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast and Twitter at Catalyst_Action. Thanks for listening.